What streak are we talking about? It's over now. It's a one-game winning streak for us. That's what we're talking about. Incredible quote from Jonathan Cooper after the Broncos dub yesterday against the Chiefs. It's over. The streak is over, guys.
I know. It feels so good to say that the Broncos not only beat the Chiefs, but they whooped the Chiefs yesterday. I mean, I haven't been able to say that in a long time. So it feels happy. We're on a one-game win streak. That's the best we can do for the next, 8 or 9 months. We got a little bit of clout for that amount of time.
And how about this? The Broncos outscored the Chiefs this year, 32 points to 28. So not only the head-to-head 1-1, then the Broncos get the upper hand on that head-to-head too.
Yeah. I think it's time for a Vance Joseph statue. I think somebody needs to we can just build the statue. Put it right out there in front next to Pat Bolles. What a great couple of weeks. I mean, he beat the Chiefs. The streak is over. That's again, I think some people make the case this season is now a success. The Chiefs streak is over.
Well, I think people now have their eyes set on other things because we talked about it. If the Broncos beat the Chiefs, pulled off the massive upset, done something that they haven't done since 2015 when Todd Davis and Peyton Manning were on the team, then the heart beats back, and the heart beats back. So I don't think people are looking and saying, well, is this season a success right now? I think people are saying, let's continue this. Let's continue this. And it's kind of a bummer that we have to wait 2 weeks until their next game, but the bye week is as sweet as it can be. And Henry, I'm sorry that your Chiefs lost, man.
Not my Chiefs. That's just not true. That's not true at all. I don't even have anything to say to that except just to deny that is not true. It was a great weekend. The Broncos won. Montana won. Montana State lost. It's like the trifecta. Also, the Nuggets won. Avs kind of sucked, but I guess that's no big deal. It was a good football weekend.
It was, specifically for the Broncos. And Todd, you mentioned it. Broncos didn't just win. They dominated the Chiefs on all three sides of the ball. I mean, special teams was good outside of that blocked field goal, and maybe that was offsides by the Chiefs anyways, but they had the muffed punt, which they got, which helped them big time. And then the defense just shut down Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. 0 touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes. 0. How difficult is that?
That's really hard, man. He usually just finds a way, even if it's late in the football game, when it doesn't really matter. He's going to get a touchdown, but they held him to 0 touchdowns yesterday, only 1 touchdown in 2 games. I think that's phenomenal. And the thing I like about this game is that all 3 phases of the team decided to come and play. In every other game, we could see good things from the defense, bad things from the offense. Okay, then good things from the offense, bad things from the defense. And I feel like everybody actually played their best game all at once. And you really don't get that a lot of the time. So it was phenomenal to see. And if this is what we can be, I mean, the sky's the limit, man. It makes me wonder and think that, a lot of people are going to be staying next year. Maybe not everybody's in the hot seat. Everybody can start getting comfortable and try to see what we can do.
Yeah, I mean, when you see a game like that, you just want to see the team keep building, Just go win more games. Like, there's no reason for any big teardown, which is crazy to say after where we were a couple weeks ago. Like, they found their way to back-to-back wins. And, again, like, they're 3-5. The odds of them actually turning this season into, making a playoff appearance, very slim. At the same time, though, you just beat the best team in the NFL, and so why can't you beat any other team?
That's exactly the mindset. And then also, 3-5 isn't ideal, not where you want to be. Like you said, the odds are absolutely not in your favor. But you started the season 0-3. You're 3-2 in the past 5 games. So you have a winning record since the first 3 games of the season. And if you take a step back, isn't it understandable to think with an entirely new coaching staff, new scheme, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, that a team would start slow?
Yeah, I agree. I didn't think they would start that slow.
Right.
They are definitely chugging along. But I feel like they turned it around really fast at the same time. So it's a tale of two halves already 7 games into the season.
Yeah.
They're definitely picking it up. They're finding their footing, and it's looking a lot better. I don't know if this means playoffs. I can't go there yet. And like I said, I think I need one more game. I think one more win against the Bills, and I'm fully on board with this season's turned around. But for right now, I feel really good about the performance they had yesterday.
Well, and we're going to talk about if playoffs is in sight or just what the goals are later this week, because we've got a lot to talk about this week. But you talked about the turnaround. It's so hard to wrap your mind around that this Broncos defense that held the Chiefs to 28 points in 2 games, that held Patrick Mahomes to 1 touchdown in 2 games in just a 2-week span, also gave up 70 points.
That's because it's not the same defense.
And
it's a totally different defense.
It is, and there's a lot of moves that Vance Joseph's made, and Vance Joseph is having the comeback of the year for anyone in the NFL. And you look, the first 5 games, Broncos average giving up 35 points per game. That was the worst. That was the second worst in NFL history. And now these past 3 games are giving up 15 points a game, and 2 of those games are against the Chiefs. I mean, this defense went from historically bad to elite right in front of our eyes, just like that. So all credit in the world to Vance Joseph. And Todd, I told you this yesterday. You got to find another hot take, because your hot take of Vance Joseph being back is not hot anymore. But all credit to you. You were on top of it before anyone else. Everyone was saying, he's going to be fired. Get him out of here. Well, he should never have been brought back. You were like, calm down. He'll be back next year. You're damn right he's going to be back next year.
I knew he would be back. That's my guy, Van Joseph. I knew he would find a way to turn this thing around. But my question is, and my thought process is, was Randy Gregory that big of a problem? I know watching the Miami Dolphins game, we brought it up. Like, there was so many plays that he just had no effort on, and if he would have tried a little bit, it would have been a very different outcome. But was that the problem the whole time, and we just had no clue?
I mean, like, again, you go back to that Dolphins game. This is not the same defense. It's not Delarian Turner-Yell. It's Justin Simmons. It's not Kareem Jackson. It's P.J. Locke. Not that Kareem was a problem, but it is a difference. Josey Jewell left early, and it was Drew Sanders playing instead. You had Randy Gregory out
Drew
there.
Sanders was playing yesterday,
but not
in
like the 3-4 base defense role. Like, he wasn't in every snap.
Give him some credit, though. You bashed him when he had a bad game against the Dolphins.
He recovered a fumble. But yeah, I mean, so you put Josey Jewell in for Drew Sanders in that base defense. You no longer have Randy Gregory out there. You have Baron Browning out there.
Who's a dog.
You have
man, he is.
Jaquan McMillan in the slot instead of Essang Bassey. You have Fabian Moreau outside instead of Damari Mathis. That's like what, 7-8 guys who now are just back. It kind of makes sense that this defense looks different than it did way back then.
And you have Mike Purcell in there instead of Jonathan Harris for the most part. And another one, which is crazy, the guy that leads the team in sacks, Nick Bonito, he's lost his starting job to Baron Browning, and rightfully so, the way Baron Browning played. Now, the great thing is, I don't think it's a bad thing for Nick Bonito. Like, it's not like he's been playing bad, so he got benched. No, you just have someone that is so talented, and we've seen Baron Browning's talent. It was just about him being healthy. His second game back, he has 2 sacks, multiple tackles for a loss, a strip sack against Patrick Mahomes, and absolutely changes that game.
Yeah, he's a dog, man. He's dominant when he's on the football field. If you watched him at all last year, you can see how much he flashes on tape. And there's not a lot of guys that do that. So the way he's able to bend around the corner and affect the quarterback, man, I think that's something that we're missing throughout the time he wasn't there to start the season. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes isn't affected, I think he eventually finds somebody downfield and creates, a big play. But Baron got after him. Sorry to Nick Bonito to come. You got to come off the bench, but now he can be the 6th man of the year. But Baron Browning is back, man. He looks really good.
And who knows? Maybe Nick is back in the starting lineup next week, because they really are just rotating those same 3 guys. It was 36 snaps for Jonathan Cooper, 35 for Baron Browning, 32 for Nick Bonito. Like, they're going to play all 3, and hopefully you see some roles start to emerge. Nick Bonito, you think of as just like your straight pass rusher, and they were doing some weird things like lining him up in the A gaps to rush, having him spy the quarterback sometimes. You look at Cooper is like kind of the more run defense type of guy. He's like your strong side linebacker. Those 3 right now, I can't say like that's like an elite 3-man outside linebacker rotation, but they are still very young, and you see enough flashes from all of them that maybe by the end of the season, people are saying like, wow, you don't need to add anything. Just run it back with those three, and the Broncos should have a pretty good group. And I think there's a real chance that happens.
Well, young and cheap, and that's one of the most exciting things about this Broncos defense specifically is the Broncos a couple of weeks ago had one of the oldest starting lineups on both sides of the ball in the entire NFL, and clearly it wasn't working, specifically on the defensive side. They change it up and go young for the most part, although Fabian Moreau over Damari Mathis isn't going young, but for the most part, PJ Locke in there. Pat Surtain, he is young still, very young. Obviously, we know his talent level. All three of those linebackers. So it's not only exciting to see the results, but it's exciting to think about the future. Exciting to think about the future is something that you haven't been able to say about this team in quite some time when looking at production compared to youth as well. And again, just Vance Joseph should get all the credit in the world for dropping the points per game by 20 points, but then also making all of these moves, benching some guys that you wouldn't think would be benched, and making the call of putting Damari Mathis, your young future, on the bench, and putting Fabian Moreau in position to succeed, because this defense is clicking. And then credit to the offense as well. The offense had fewer yards than the Chiefs, didn't even get to 300 yards, but they did what they had to do. They ran the ball when they needed to. They had 8-play drives when you needed to, or 8-minute drives when you needed to, and they did a great job converting in the red zone. And that's just so crucial to beating the Chiefs, because if the Broncos are settling for field goals instead of getting those 3 touchdowns, even as good as the defense played, the Chiefs are still in it at the very end of the game, because it's probably a one-score game instead of a 15-point game.
Yeah, I think one-score games with the Chiefs are always tough. When it was 9-14, I was just like gritting my teeth, because I just felt like there's some way the Chiefs are going to find a way to score, and I didn't want that to happen. But once the lead increased and the offense was able to keep the ball, man, that second half offense, man, that was something we hadn't seen at all this year. They were able to run the ball well. They got points on the board. And I like that they executed when the Chiefs made a mistake or we got a turnover. I think, what was it, against the Dolphins when we got the 4th down stop and we were in field goal range and we got backed up during the drive and had to punt it. Like, we could have been in that same position with the muffed punt, but instead we 100%. Turned it into points. Like, that's so important for our offense to be successful. Like, when we get the ball back, the offense has to be able to capitalize off of that.
100%. 100%. And just complimentary football all around.
Yeah. I mean, a 90-yard touchdown drive is pretty crazy. Like, you don't see that very often. Like, you need to be a good team to be able to pull that off. So I totally agree. I mean, that running game was really working. The passing game did what it needed to do. You know, got the ball in the end zone, and that's kind of how they use it. I don't know. It's also pretty crazy they ran the ball 27 times with Javonte.
It is.
That's a big workload. And you look at it, it's like 3.1 yards per carry. Not a good number. But when you think back through all those runs, it felt like he was getting whatever he wanted. He was breaking so many tackles. Things are going well. That's why they didn't need him to provide explosive runs. Just keep everything on track, convert your 3rd downs. And again, not a perfect offensive showing for the Broncos, but it's complimentary football. They didn't put the defense in bad situations. They provided some points when they probably shouldn't have, and they just didn't blow opportunities. Same thing with special teams, same thing with the defense. I mean, it's the defense that really won the game.
And so credit to Sean Payton, too, because he stuck with the ground game. 24 carries in the second half. We've seen multiple games this season where the Broncos don't even have 24 carries in the entire game. Excuse me. But Sean Payton, for a couple of weeks, has said, I know I have to stick with the run. I know I have to stick with the run. I got away from it. He listened to himself and stuck with the run, despite averaging only 3.5 yards per carry in the second half. He stuck with it, and there's some hope that Week 18, Broncos-Raiders, is going to mean something for this team. And, boy, that's going to be a blast if it does. It's going to be a blast regardless, because we're going to be there. And we want you to join us on our Circa road trip. We're taking our show to the road. We're going to be out in Vegas for a couple of days. All of us are going to be there beginning of January. Perfect time to get away from Denver in this cold and head out to Vegas. We're giving you a package that's going to include 20% off 2 nights night stay at Circa, 2 tickets to the Winter Swim and Concert, 2 passes to the Stadium Swim, DNVR tailgate and watch party at Stadium Swim, 1 annual Die Hard membership package, and an option to buy a game ticket if you don't want to hang out with us at Stadium Swim during the game. So head to the link in our bio or head to the link in our description for more information on this. And we want you to travel to Vegas with us, and especially with this cold weather here, that seems pretty nice.
Yeah, come on out and check us out. And if you want to go to the game, check out our friends over at Game Time. You don't have to use one of those other crappy ticket sites like Ticketmaster, where you go through, you get your tickets, you try to put in your card information, and then all of a sudden it says tickets not found, and you do it about 10 times before you move on. You don't have to struggle with that anymore. Go check out our friends over at Game Time using code DNVR for 20% off. They have all the things you need as far as events. They have sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Go check them out at gametime.com using code DNVR for $20 off.
Man, you want to go to Buffalo? Check out Game Time. That would be quite a game. In 2 weeks is the Broncos' next game. But we have plenty to talk about still with the trade deadline. About 27 hours away from right now. And boy, we've talked about trades a lot right now. And with the trade deadline approaching, does this win change much? How does this win change the Broncos, whether they're going to trade everyone, trade a couple of players? Sean Payton talked about it after the game, and let's hear exactly what Sean had to say when asked about this trade deadline and how the team approaches it.
There's no approach, meaning, honestly, and you guys know this, it's a busy time of the year, and there's pressure on news media to be on top of potential stories, trade stories, and the teams that aren't doing as well always fall into this position, and I understand it. But we're not the team looking to go out and buy, and so we can't control the buyers that call. You know, we always pick the phone up. You have to professionally, but that's it. I mean, this doesn't. You know, we've got a plan on where we see ourselves, and that's an honest answer. I mean, you know, when I see or hear things, I chuckle because I'm thinking, well, I haven't talked to anyone about that, and if I haven't, then it's probably not true.
Todd, how many times in your life have you chuckled after seeing some media reports or media saying, oh, this play was broken down or something, and you just laugh at it?
Yeah, I do it all the time. Well, I don't think I laughed anymore when I saw it on PFF. Because, you know, I like the grade players. And there'd be time where I'm chasing somebody across the field, and they don't know that wasn't my responsibility. I'm trying to cover for another guy, but now they say I lost my man. So I definitely understand his frustration.
We need to have Todd tear apart Henry's game grades one day.
Just but see, like, there's so many of those that I'll just make a note that says, like, he was, like, a couple steps behind the guy. I don't think he was in coverage. I'm just throwing that one out. Like, this isn't a part of the grade. And there happens to be, like, 5 or 10 of those a game where it's like, I'm not really sure whose responsibility it was. That's why I think I'm better than PFF, because I don't just guess.
There we go.
Yep.
I agree. And game grades, this is going to be a fun one, I imagine, on all 3 sides of the ball.
I mean, yeah. It's definitely feels less fun before you get started. But, you know, by the end, it'll be fun because there'll be a bunch of, like, fun grades. Right now, it's just, like, a big old project that I've got to get done.
So Sean Payton doubled down this morning when we talked to him, and he said, we're not openly or even remotely shopping anyone. He said he'll meet with George Paton at some point to talk about trades, but his focus right now is on the Buffalo Bills. And he did admit that teams have been calling the Broncos about some of their players. So, after hearing Sean talk about this, what are the Broncos going to do?
You know, I thought that, you know, regardless of a win or loss, that they would, you know, trade whoever they're going to trade. But I didn't expect the win to be that dominant, because then it gets your mind thinking, like, okay, maybe we are on the right track. Maybe the things that we saw was true, and the guys that we have in this locker room can help us. So after a dominant win like that, I don't know how trading anybody right now makes sense. And I just don't know for the guys that you do trade, unless you trade a major piece, if you're getting anything great for them. So it may just be better to hold them and see what we can turn them into throughout the rest of the season.
Exactly. Like, if you trade somebody now, you're probably still not getting a great return, unless it's a guy like Justin Simmons. And if you trade somebody like Justin Simmons, your defense is going to stink the rest of the season, and you're kind of just punting. And I don't think they're in a situation where they just want to punt the season away. I think Jerry Jeudy's name has been brought up the most. So what? You go get like a 3rd or 4th round pick for him? What's the point? Yeah. Like that's a guy who's like potentially a starter at some point in his career. Like that's kind of the expectation. Is that really something you need to do right now? You might as well just wait till after the season anyway. The only reason you do that is if you want to get him out of the locker room. There's really no reason to think that they would want to do that. I know there's been like the bit of drama that bubbles up every couple weeks, but a lot of it, I don't know. I don't think it's bothering the team in any way. And on top of that, the receivers have been a little bit disappointing this season. And while the running game has been working, if you're not punting the season away, I don't think you can really afford to be giving up a receiver because you're still trying to get that passing game to be consistent and productive. So I don't think that makes sense. You just run through everybody else. Garett Bolles, he's playing great football. You want to keep him for a while, not just for the rest of the season. Like Courtland Sutton, he's playing great football. Keep him. Like, there's no reason to move on from him. And so you just look through the roster, and I just don't think there's much of a point.
Well, so let's go through everyone, because I think the receivers is where I'm at of someone they might trade if they trade anyone. But tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think they're moving Justin Simmons.
No, I don't think so.
No.
It wouldn't be smart.
No.
I think that's a big message to the players, like, hey, the season's over. We're going to look to next year. I think everybody knows that. And I don't think they want that.
No. And that's the one where winning this game in such a dominant fashion where any thought of trading Justin Simmons, that's what this game changed to me, was any big trades. They were never going to move Pat Surtain, but obviously he's off the table now too. Justin is off the table now too, because if you trade one of those guys, then everything Sean's saying and trying to sell the team on this year and create a momentum for this year, you just kill it. But immediately by trading one of those guys. And then they're not trading Garett Bolles. I don't think so.
No.
Josey, Jewell, to me, that doesn't make sense. You're going to get a 7th round pick back for Josey, and he is a big reason why your defense is playing so well. Had that huge forced fumble at the start of the game, which really got things going the Broncos' direction on the defensive side of the ball. Who else am I missing outside of the receivers?
No, on Josey, I mean, you're asking Drew Sanders to then play a lot of football. And from what we've seen, it's been such a tough start for him. We don't need to dig too deep into that, but it's, once again yesterday, I mean, he's only out there for like 4 plays, but still, just not much going on. He recovered the fumble. Point is, you need Josey, because we've kind of seen what happens when you don't have Josey, Jewell in that defense. The run fits aren't filled correctly. Like, it just doesn't work. You need him.
So then,
a lot more than the 6th round pick or 5th round pick, whatever you get.
Right, exactly. So then I think it comes down to the receivers. And the reason I think that the Broncos could still make a trade with one of their receivers is because they wanted to make a change since Sean Payton got here with this receiver room. Now, they weren't just going to give one of them away in the offseason. Clearly, they wanted a 1st for Jerry. They wanted a 2nd for Courtland. Teams were offering a 2nd for Jerry and less for Courtland, and the Broncos just said no. And Sean's saying we're not shopping anyone. That's what he said
we're
today.
Not buying, but
He said we're not shopping anyone, meaning we're not looking to give people away. And no, of course they're not looking to give people away, especially after that win. But Henry, you said the receivers are struggling, so why would you move on? That's exactly why you would move on, to kind of just change things up in that room. Marvin Mims, 1 target yesterday, 1 catch for 0 yards. He did play a career-high 28 snaps, but at some point, they've got to open the door for him, and if you move on from Courtland or Jerry, that's just a natural way for him to slide in. That is Sean Payton's guy. Now, I don't think they're going to give Jerry or Courtland away for a 6th round pick, for a 7th round pick, but if a team comes and says, you want a 3rd for Jerry, you want a 3rd for Sutton, I do think the Broncos, that's the one deal that they would act on.
Yeah, I don't think Marvin Mims is better than Jerry Jeudy.
No.
I would not put him in the same caliber. Yes, he's a good deep threat, but I think all things that Jerry can do. I mean, he had a really good game yesterday. He had a touchdown. He had that post over the middle. And there was 2 other times that Russ missed him that he was actually wide open. So he does what he needs to as far as getting open against a very good back end of the Chiefs. I mean, those corners were playing really, really tight football on a lot of guys, and Jerry was still managing to get open. So I'm all about building players and seeing what we can create. I would hate to see Jerry go and be used the right way, and then he turns into this all-pro wide receiver that we could have had. So that's why I wouldn't want to give him up. It's because I see his potential, and I've seen what he has been able to do, and I've seen what the quarterback at times can't get him the ball. It doesn't mean that he's not open, you know?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the point that Jerry made about 10 days ago in the locker room, was saying, look at the tape. Don't look at the stats.
Behind the
tape.
sky doesn't
Exactly.
lie. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would see why they do it. Again, you just take the pick. You get to move on. He's going to be more expensive next year. At the same time, though, you don't improve your passing game. You don't improve your receivers by getting rid of probably maybe the most talented guy in that group. It's him or Courtland Sutton. You know, that means you get more Marvin Mims, which would be fun. It also means a lot more Brandon Johnson, a lot more Lil Jordan Humphrey, and especially now that they seem to have kind of filled out their roles. And I guess it's been a little bit tricky when Greg Dulcich is there because he and Lil Jordan Humphrey do a lot of the same things. But you see what the idea is for all these guys, and you take out a piece of that, like your kind of true separator who can find space at the second level. It's just asking for trouble.
They're just not using him, though. Todd, you mentioned it. Like, if he goes somewhere else and somewhere else is going to use him properly, then he could turn into an all-pro. The talent is there for that to happen. But, like, how many times are we going to have to say this? We said it when Jerry was first with, was it Rich Scangarello or Pat Shurmur? Then it was last year with Nathaniel Hackett. Now it's this year with Sean Payton. Like, how long do we have to give it? And I think that you could sell high on Jeudy right now.
Really?
2 catches, 50 yards the past week. 5 catches on 5 targets for 64 yards. I mean, those are the best games that he's had, really, and a touchdown yesterday as well. And we're talking about Jerry Jeudy, who's right now on pace for 730 yards this year, for 61 catches. So I just don't think this isn't against Jerry Jeudy. It's just we've seen the Broncos want to make a change in this room, and Sean never once said we're not trading anyone.
Yep.
He just said we're not giving players away. And so that's why I wouldn't be surprised if there's one move made and it's trading one of these wide receivers. But I would be shocked if it's for a 5th or a 6th round pick, something like that.
No, I wouldn't be surprised at that either. But you asked, how long do we have to wait? And I would say just one game. It only takes one game. It only takes Sean deciding to throw the ball 40 times instead of rush the ball 40 times. And now we have an explosive game from Jerry or Courtland.
But that's not what this Broncos team is.
No, it's not. But I don't think he was running the ball 40 times last game either.
Yeah.
I think that's a new change he made to get the most out of his running backs. Now, I'm just saying that he can make changes within this offense to get the most out of his wide receivers if he wants to do it. So I'm just saying, like, we're one game away between Jerry having how many yards?
He's on pace for 730.
No, how many yards did he have last game?
50.
Oh, he had 50.
Yeah, I think we're one game away from him having 50 to him having. I mean, if Russ just completes 2 of those balls, I think he's almost over 100 yards for the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Broncos
still don't have a 100-yard receiver this
Yeah,
season.
That's
but they're
true.
also 25th in pass attempts. You know, like they.
But again, you're not using these. Like, that's
I
not how you're
push
built.
back. Yeah, and that reminds me. I don't think that the Broncos are using Jerry improperly. I think that they're using him the right way. I think Russell's just not throwing him the ball. Like, they're getting Jerry open at the second level. You know, that's right there. It's up to Russ to throw him the ball. And Russ is uncomfortable with that, whatever it may be. But that's why I wouldn't trade him, because I don't think you fix the passing game with the receivers by getting rid of a guy who's open that often. I think it's more of a look at Russ and say, hey, see what's happening right here. You don't need to check it down every time. Like, trust Jerry. Throw him the ball more. And I think that's where the fix comes, not from, putting Brandon Johnson into Jerry's spot.
So you're going to try to fix, in quotations, an 11-year veteran that does things a certain way. You think that's what's going to change? Because right now,
We had to fix him last year.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We've been fixing all year.
And now we see the Russell Wilson that he is. He's by going out and throwing less than 20 passes a game. It's by building on the running game, and then allowing Russ to unleash 1 or 2. In the 2 games against the Chiefs, when the Broncos went 1-1 and outscored the Chiefs, Russell Wilson had barely over 200 passing yards combined.
Yeah.
Just think about that, how crazy that is. Like, yesterday, his over-under was 205 yards, and it's like, man, that's pretty low.
Yeah.
That's really low. He had 118 passing yards, and they won, and they had a good offense. I think that's the offense that Sean Payton thinks that they can win with Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy's season high in targets is 7. You look around at some of the number 1 receivers in this league. they're consistently getting 14, 15, 12. Every single game they're getting right around 10. So this is not an indictment on Jerry. I just see it, if you're really not going to use him and you can get a third for him, I think that's when the Broncos make the move. Now, they may not get that third, and they're not going to sell. I think that's pretty clear. They're not just going to ship him out for nothing. One more interesting thing.
That is interesting.
What part?
No, I'm just saying. I understand your view. I think it's very interesting because I think yesterday was the first time that they tried to use him.
Yeah.
And I think it worked out well for the most part, except for Russ missing 2 balls. But they tried to utilize him, and he was open.
He was open.
And the throws were there. They just missed a little bit. So I think if he capitalizes on those, I think it's a phenomenal game for the Russ, him, the offense as a whole. They were running the ball well, passing the ball well. But I totally understand trading him too.
And it's just the talent.
Yeah.
I mean, the talent is there. And Jerry's never had an issue with getting open. We've seen it this year, last year. 2 weeks ago, he had the 3rd most yards of separation per route. Like, that's never a question. But at what point is it like, okay, it's not that Jerry isn't working out.
He's too good. We can't handle it.
Exactly.
Jerry's too good.
It's just what point do you realize, like, okay, the ceiling's up here, and he's down here because not just because of him, but because of everything, and you just realize, like, we're just never going to be able to get there that to him. So if another team thinks they can, here you go.
At the same time, though, I do still think this would be selling low on Jerry. Taking a 3rd-round pick for Jerry is selling low. You know, we were talking the offseason. I was saying I wouldn't trade him unless you get a first. And the Broncos said the same thing.
You said you wouldn't trade him unless you got a top 10 pick.
I can't remember if it was top 15, top 10, but yeah. I mean, right now, I'd pull the trigger. But that's why, like, I can't see his trade value going down. Like, you just look at what he's done so far this season. It hasn't been great, obviously. On pace for 750 yards. I think it's a lot more likely that he has a better second half of the season, and you can still get at least the same pick that you would have gotten, and probably improve it, too. Because this is still a pretty low point in Jerry's career.
Yeah, but then the pay starts going up next year, and that hurts the return there. And then just another thing with this wide receiver room, my last point, this is the highest paid receiver room in the NFL. Now, you don't have Tim Patrick this year because of an injury.
Yeah,
but
that sucks.
At some point, you're going to have to move on from 1 or 2 of these guys. They might think, like, the value's best now as opposed to moving forward. But I think we all agree, if they make a move, well, do you guys agree with me? If they make a move, it would be in the receiver room?
Yes,
probably.
I agree.
I also don't think we've talked about the running backs enough in terms of trade talks, because you have 3 of them, and all 3 have been pretty good. And again, like, I don't think they'd make the move just because Sean has kind of found all their roles. Like, we see how Javonte and Jewell are split. They really like Samaje on 3rd downs because he can protect and those screens and all that sort of stuff. So I don't think they make a move. At the same time, though, there's plenty of teams out there that would love to have another running back, a second running back. You know, whether it's Samaje you trade and probably pick up a late round pick, whether you say, you know what, Javonte, you have to pay him after next year. He looks good. If somebody's willing to pay up for him, maybe you do listen.
You know what Sean Payton would say to you, Henry?
What?
How many Breckenridge beers have you had? Because you sound drunk right now.
Really? Really?
And let's talk about this.
And that's one of the few places that deep.
I think it's a fair point. After I tell you about our friends over at Breckenridge Brewery, you are definitely wanting to crack a Broncos country. You want that orange and blue in your hand to rep the Broncos, and no one does it better than our friends over at Breckenridge Brewery. They're the official beer of DNVR. So check them out at breckbrew.com for their beer locator to find out where you can get any Breckenridge beers.
And head on over and check out our friends at one more Foco. They've got all sorts of good stuff. I bet some people yesterday were wearing some gear from Foco at that game because people were really dressed up all crazy. I guess I did see a picture of a guy in some Broncos pajamas. He had a sign. It was like a headstone that said, like, rest in peace, the Kansas City Chiefs streak, 2015 to 2023. That was pretty good. I wonder if those pajamas were from Foco, because that's where you can buy that sort of thing, whether it's the pajamas or the overalls. Wow, these are some good-looking overalls.
I saw it at the Packers game. We had 2 people come to our tailgate that were wearing the Foco overalls.
Yep. There's a whole bunch of good stuff. Just so many options. Like, you're not going to find options like this literally anywhere else. I'm just going to click on most popular. Oh, most popular right now. Oh, it's sold out. It's that hooded gator thing that we brought up last time. Broncos masks, they're not Snuggies, but they're pretty much the Snuggies. Broncos Lego sets. There's so much stuff on here. So with Christmas coming up, good time to head on over, buy some gifts, or even just buy something for yourself. Wow, it's crazy. This is a Von Miller on-field sideline face cover. You can't find that anywhere else.
Next time the Broncos
$6.40.
they're playing against Von Miller.
That's
First time they've ever played against him.
Yeah, they're not winning that game. That's a shame.
Wow.
A motivated Von Miller. There's nobody is blocking that guy.
Von Miller loves the Broncos. I don't know if Von Miller's necessarily like extra motivated to beat the Broncos. I think he's extra motivated to see the Broncos.
No, he's motivated.
Exactly.
For a player that played his former team, he wants to whoop him.
Yeah, that just
hands down.
Yes, that just means that he's going to be like helping Russ up after all 3 of his sacks. He's not going to be like, it won't be like that. Was it the Tyrod fake?
3 sacks?
It's Von Miller motivated and get like
he's gonna try to have a career day,
and I think it'll work if he tries to do that.
Yeah, he's gonna. Yeah.
Well, I mean, these are conversations for next week, but you got to double team him the entire game, or maybe not, because I don't even think it would work.
Let's get to running backs.
Well, okay, real quick. DNVR 10% off over at FOCO. But yeah, I think you either triple team or you just you might as well leave him on block because the double team's doing nothing either.
Well, Henry, what you're saying is trade Samaje Perine, your best guy to block Von Miller, and just let Von Miller destroy Russell Wilson. You'd be crazy to trade any of these guys.
Really?
Yes, you would be because...
Do you need 3?
With the way Sean's using them, yes, I think Sean needs 3 because the Broncos ran the ball 40 times yesterday, and that was not a fluke. I think this is exactly how Sean Payton wants to win and wants to the offense to work because he said it right when he got here. We need to take Russell Wilson off the high dive. He did too much last year. He needs to be a guy that we ask to do things, but not to do everything. Then they go out and they build their offensive line to run the ball. Then they also bring in Samaje Perine. I think if you take any of these 3 guys out, you're really hurting this approach that they have. Now, the easiest one would be Samaje, but then there's just no room for error from any of these other guys. I think it'd be a mistake, even if you. I mean, what are you getting for Samaje?
Well, for Samaje, probably not much, just because he's on a fair contract. You're not getting a crazy value, so it'd probably be a late round pick.
So you're advocating trading one of the other guys?
Oh, I'm not advocating for it. I just think that it's worth talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I mean, I don't know that it's that crazy that you could get a 2nd or 3rd round pick for Javonte. The way that he's been running, I think it's possible, and I wouldn't do it. But if they had lost yesterday, if they really were doing this teardown, that might be a place where you could recoup something. And if they did trade Samaje, the way you do it is you just have Javonte play more of those 3rd down snaps, which opens up more opportunities for Jaleel in your standard situations. So I wouldn't do it, but they are deep there. They do kind of have a spare running back at the moment.
I think if they're going to run the ball 40 times a game with 10 games left, that's 400 rushes.
That is.
They're going to need all 3 of those guys because they're going to get tired. Somebody may get dinged, knock on wood. But I think they need those guys. I don't think they really have any room to trade anybody.
Yeah, and I also think with how running backs are valued right now, I don't think the Broncos get anywhere close to a 2nd or a 3rd round pick. Javonte, I love the way he's running, but he's on pace for 800 yards this season, 0 touchdowns, 4 yards per carry. So I'm not trying to put Javonte down, but just taking a step back and looking at it from another team, I don't think they're saying, we're going to give up a 2nd or a 3rd for that.
Not.
And with
maybe
the way, again, you're going to have to pay Javonte fairly soon, other teams take that into consideration.
True.
And then Jaleel, he's just he is Sean Payton's toy. And Jaleel is so freaking good. He does need more attempts, and I don't think it's in the way that Marvin Mims needs more attempts, where you trade a receiver to open up a spot for him. Jaleel isn't going to be, even with Alvin Kamara, he wasn't a 1st, 2nd, 3rd down back for Sean Payton. They still had another back to go with him every single year. And Alvin Kamara still put up incredible numbers, but you just don't make him your number one and only running back.
No, but they're so happy to have him.
Oh, my goodness.
And for them, he's so freaking cheap. That undrafted rookie, although it's good money, as far as like the rest of the NFL, that's a freaking deal, man. It's like going to a steakhouse getting all you can eat for like $10.99. Like,
I'm so excited for Vegas.
It's a Vegas deal right there. Okay, so I am so excited to jump into the inside scoop and get the inside scoop from our guy, Todd Davis. This has to be the best inside scoop we've had all season.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one.
I am too. You hear is bringing the iPad to Todd. We've got the whole setup today. All right, Todd, let's dive into the inside.
So this is the first quarter, actually, first play of the game. And this leads to a 3-and-out by the Kansas City Chiefs, which they rarely do. But nevertheless, I like bringing up some of these plays. They're not all like splash plays, but they're plays that mean a lot. So this one right here is up next. This is Power O. It was the number one run that was hurting the Broncos, whether it was the Dolphins, it was the Green Bay Packers, it was whoever else they played. Basically, when teams ran the Power O, they got yards at will. So this is the Power O now against this new defense, where Jonathan Cooper comes and stuns this man right here. Stuns the pulling guard, so it doesn't give them the room to wrap around, because they were wrapping guys all the way around. They're wrapping guys all the way around and getting up on these linebackers so quickly that there was this big alley and guys were just running through it nonstop. But now you see what Jonathan Cooper does. He comes and stuns the line of scrimmage right now. That way this guy can't even wrap around. And then you just see bodies flying to the ball. Linebackers not refusing to be blocked. You got tackles wiping and getting over blocks, and they just stone the Chiefs right here. And this is all film study. The Chiefs looked at film and said, what can't the Broncos do? Oh, they can't stop the Power O. Very first play of the game, Broncos are like, nah, we got that nutted up. There's nothing you can do with that.
Man, I love that, Todd. And it just brings me back to something you said earlier. How bad was Randy Gregory? Because when we talk about Randy Gregory in that Dolphins game, we're not talking about the lack of pressure that he put onto it. We're talking about how he just got dogged in the running game time and time and time again. You bring up the Power O. Well, who was there earlier this season? It was Randy Gregory. And so now Jonathan Cooper, he's an all-around player, and that's why he's on the field to start the game.
Absolutely. I think he's a dog. And like Henry said, he's probably their best defender in the run. So I think they're just finally figuring out who they are. And so this is another play as a defense. The Broncos did terrible against what? What was their number one play in the passing game? Screens. Yeah. They could not stop a screen. You would see 2 O-linemen versus 1 linebacker, and the screen would go for 40 yards. But the Broncos say, oh, not anymore. You got 2, 3 guys ready for the screen. Oh, how do I get back? You got 3 guys ready for the screen.
Yeah.
Look at how clogged that is right there. It doesn't even look like a screen.
There is nowhere to go. Nick Bonito's in here. Alex Singleton's in here. This is just nonstop. They have watched film. They're ready to go. Y'all here's getting me right. There we go.
Boom.
They've watched film. They're ready to go. And they're like, hey, we're not going to let Power O beat us anymore. We're not going to let this screen beat us anymore. We're going to have guys ready, because right here, Alex Singleton is dropping out, but he reads the screen so fast that he reacts. Nick Bonito delays his rush and just reacts to the screen now. These guys are playing with their hair on fire. They know their job, and they're executing. So this is what it looks like when you're executing at a really high level. Tackles for loss.
Yeah.
Look at 51 in there, baby. Come on.
Hey, just like he taught him.
Yeah.
Ronnie Perkins is getting some playing time now.
He's getting
some serious playing time.
He looks good, too.
Yeah,
I thought he looked really good. I think he
51.
struggled that first game, but ever since, he's been good.
Looks weird on the
He's
outside,
like that
though.
fourth edge rusher.
It looks
Yeah.
different. It looks different. This right here is another play. They're playing a form of a 3 buzz, something that we said they should probably stay out of. But nevertheless, we talked about being able to tackle well and being able to play everything top down and being able to tackle really well. And this is just a great play by Josey, Jewell, getting out in coverage. You see they have a screen. So in this play, they're actually beat. They have a man wide open. They don't have good coverage here. But the number one thing you can do as a linebacker is come downhill and tackle. And that's exactly what Josey Jewell does. He comes down, makes a great play, and this is a forced fumble that the offense then turns around and gets points off of, because guys are coming downhill, they're playing top down, and they're able to make good plays And, Josey, he's a physical guy. So when he comes to hit you, you're going to feel it.
Yep. Nope. I do not want to be any receiver there. And I got to say, when I did not think, I was like, what safety just created that fumble? Because Josey was playing so deep there. And man, did he deliver a blow. Jewell just has his best games against the Chiefs.
Yeah,
it's like a great time to have a good game.
2 sacks 2 picks last year. I think he always balls against the Chiefs. That's my guy, man.
And like you said, complimentary football all the way around.
Yep.
Defense does something. The offense was able to capitalize. And also, defense getting the ball for the offense in really good position, too. Like, the offense got the ball at midfield quite a bunch.
Yep. This is the very next play.
Yep.
And they're using my guy, Jerry Jeudy. Finally, they're playing a version of cover 4, and they're trying to pass him off to this back safety right here. But Jerry's going to run such a clean post that Russ is going to be able to find him in the middle. Look at this pocket, by the way. Shout out to the offensive line.
Yeah.
I felt like Chris Jones didn't have a tremendous game.
No.
Quinn Miners was doing a great job blocking him. I think he's turning into a real dog at guard.
He did that last time, too.
Yeah,
this whole
man.
stretch, Chris Jones, Kenny Clark, then Chris Jones again. I haven't gone back through this game, but I'd imagine it was those two up against each other again. He's playing great.
And how about Jaleel? Jaleel even slid past Chris Jones on a play, man. You know you're damn good if Chris Jones can't tackle you.
Yeah, that is somebody I wouldn't want to tackle right now. Being retired, he got a little bit too much speed, I feel like, right now. But this is Jerry Jeudy. I mean, when you utilize him, he's going to make plays. He's one-on-one with a pretty good safety, and I think he just finds a way to come down with this ball. I think that's what great players do. But once again, this is a post against cover 4. And he's not open, but I'm open.
Yeah.
What did he say? I'm always effing open. Like, this is just a great job of making a play, going up against the ball.
Man.
And when they utilize him, man, and give him something catchable, I think he makes the most of it.
I loved seeing this play because Jerry Jeudy, we always talk about how open he is. And, man, he's always open. Why isn't he getting the ball? Well, it was great to see him do something that we're not used to and catch, not just a contested catch, but a really difficult one, and then comes down on the ground really hard, but hangs on to it for just a monster play because that, like you said, that was the first play right after the turnover.
Yep.
So not only complimentary offense, but, it's just bang, bang, taking the heart out of the Chiefs.
Exactly. And then 2 plays later, we find our way to get into the end zone. So now they're playing man-to-man because the Broncos haven't run the ball so well. There's only really 2 coverages you can play against a team that's running really well, and that's cover 4 and cover 1. And they're in the red zone. They want to, have everybody in close coverage, so they go to cover 1. And they have Jerry Jeudy basically just going to outrun Snead to the corner. He has the speed. He's great in separating. You say he was 3rd in the league 2 weeks ago for yards for separation in routes, and that's just what he does. They try to pass these guys off. You can't run with me, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You need some new cleats.
Yeah.
Get your feet right, man.
Honestly, throw the ball right now. He's
exactly.
open.
He's been open. He's been open. But that's just them utilizing him. This guy's falling over trying to keep up with him. And this is a great ball from Russ right in the pocket for Jerry Jeudy to catch, and this is a touchdown, man. Bobble schmobble, he caught the ball. He's in the end zone, baby.
Man, at first I was like, absolutely touchdown. Then you look at the replay and you're like, did he have it? And that was actually a huge catch because if he doesn't, we're talking about 3rd and 10. And then we're talking about not being able to convert in the red zone. Yep. And then instead of it being 14-3, it's 10-3. So that was a great throw by Russ too, but really good. Really glad that Jerry came down with it.
Really huge play. And this is our guy right here. I think it's, what is this, 3rd down? Oh, 1st and 10. They're rolling, about to score right before halftime. And if if you guys know the Chiefs and know how their offense works, they try to score, or they're one of the best offenses at scoring with 2 minutes left. Like, that's what they do.
Yep.
But Baron Browning said, not today. This is his strip sack. And this is one of the things, not to knock on Nick Bonito or him at all, but I felt like Nick's sacks really came off of wide open pressures. I felt like he wasn't beating guys one-on-one and getting to the ball. This is what Baron Browning can do. Like, you can line him up one-on-one and he can beat, your best tackle and get to the quarterback. And so I think that's why he earned the start over him, is because he can do this, and then he's also phenomenal in the run game. This is a great strip sack. Jonathan Cooper gets all the credit because he picks up the fumble, but this is all Baron Browning creating a play and really taking them out of field goal range and allowing our offense to get back on the field and try to get more points, because when you can anytime you can stop the Chiefs, it's hard to do, man. It's really hard to do.
This is when it felt like, oh, damn, maybe things are different because this was still in the first half. And so you're like, there's still plenty of time for the Chiefs to come back. And look, they're doing what they do. Moving the ball in 2 minutes, going to score before half. And then in the second half, even though the Broncos dominated, it just felt like, man, the Chiefs are just going to be right there. But this was when it really changed. It felt like, okay, this isn't the same Chiefs team. This isn't the same Broncos team. This was a big-time play. And then, of course, a couple plays later, Russ gives it up with the strip sack himself. But this was huge from keeping him out of the end zone.
I was going to negate that fact. But Baron Browning, man, with a great play. And like you said, I think this kind of changed how we viewed the game because they had just completed a huge pass to Travis Kelce. It felt like, they're about to go down and score and make this a close game again. And this is a new defense, man. I'm loving the way they're playing.
Oh, here we go. Some red zone.
Yeah, another red zone. I want to shout the offense once again. And this is Russ, the O-line, Courtland, Sutton. I think everybody's working well together here. Russ gets a little bit of pressure to start the play, but he keeps his eyes downfield. And Courtland Sutton is right here, and he's going to run. Basically, you can't run with me. The over route again, and he's going to find him in the back of the end zone with a great ball. He steps up to avoid the pressure. Look at that. This was almost going to be bad.
Yeah.
And Russ steps up and finds Courtland Sutton in the back of the end zone. They were playing the form of cover 4 here, so they're trying to pass it off. And I think he gets lost in the shuffle. But anyway, that's not our fault. Courtland Sutton is there and ready for this ball, man. And I think Courtland had a great game. Jerry Jeudy had a great game. Russ is I think his best play of the night. And this was huge for them because they go up 21-9. I think that's kind of the dagger in the coffin right there.
And again, I think every Broncos fan, it's second and goal when they're in the red zone. It's like they're holding their breath because they're like, if they get a field goal, way too much time for the Chiefs, and all they need is 8 points, one possession. This was like, oh my God, it's going to happen. No one said it out loud because there's still a lot of time left, but it's like 2-possession lead on the Chiefs. Here we go.
Yeah, this was it, man. This was a beautiful play. Shout out to Russ, man. I know he didn't do a lot as far as like passing the ball, but I think this play and the play to Jerry Jeudy were two great throws by him and really helped the Broncos win yesterday.
Todd, to just put that in perspective, at one point in the second quarter, Russ was 3 of 6. 2 passes were touchdowns. The other one was that 40-yard pass to Jerry Jeudy. I mean, so he wasn't asked to do much. But when he was, I mean, that's as efficient as you can be. And I think that's exactly what Sean Payton wants this offense to be.
Yeah.
Russ, you do things. You step up when we ask you to step up, but we're going to ask you to just hand the ball off a lot.
Yep.
And shout out to our friends over at Spirit Hound, where they have award-winning whiskey. In fact, they won the 2022 Whiskey of the Year at the London Spirits Competition. I picked up a bottle of Spirit Hound a couple of weeks ago for a friend. Great gift, great for yourself. If you want it for some Monday Night Football, you want it for the bye week, make sure to check them out because you can get it in 40 states nationwide. They also have a new tasting room here in Denver in the Highlands if you want to check them out. And if you go to their distillery in Lyons and you bring in juniper berries, you're going to get a free cocktail. They've got it all going on, and they also have whiskey, vodka, and gin that you can get all across Colorado, and you can order online to 40 different states. So check them out over at our friends at Spirit Hound. And before we get into questions, let's make sure we give out our DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week right now. And I'm looking at tonight's game, Monday Night Football. The good week for the Broncos is going to continue. Unfortunately, the Chargers got that win last night, but it's going to end well for the Broncos because the Detroit Lions are going to smoke the Las Vegas Raiders in Detroit tonight. It's a 7-point game favoring the Lions. Give me that all day. The Lions got embarrassed last week. They're going to do the exact same thing, or they're going to do the opposite to the Raiders tonight and embarrass them.
I hope so.
You don't sound confident.
I'm really not. I'm a little tempted. That plus 270 on the money line, that's a big number. The answer is just to stay away from that. Because I will say, I should probably issue an apology to DraftKings for what I did to them yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a little surprised to see they're still in business. But yeah, the Broncos made me a little bit of money. This line actually isn't up yet. You're going to have to look for it on Saturday, though. I think Montana will be like a 5-point favorite against Sacramento State. That's a win. Just take whatever the line is. Just take Montana.
Oh,
They're gonna.
We got that this week.
It's a statement game.
Let's go.
Yep. Number 4 versus number 7, I think.
Would you say it's their Super Bowl?
No.
Oh.
National championship
no,
is the Super Bowl. There's it'll be a fun game.
That's the second thing you said today to make me feel like you were drinking before the show.
Wow.
So
Number 2.
We might have to get a breathalyzer on set just for Hank. You know, and I'm taking the Dolphins against the Chiefs. I'm taking the Dolphins, man. I think the money line is plus 120. I want to see the Chiefs lose again. So yeah. I think the Dolphins can do it. I know they had some struggles as of late, but I feel like they could beat the Chiefs.
Man, I would love that. And that one, you just roll out of bed and watch it. That's a Germany game, 7:30 in the morning. Man, what a perfect way to start off your bye. Watch the Chiefs lose.
Yep.
And then maybe we're setting our sights on, can the Broncos win the AFC West? We need a couple more things to go the Broncos' way for that to happen. But, I mean, yeah, now we're not looking at draft picks. I told you if the Broncos win, we're not going to be looking at draft picks this week for a little bit. Yeah, there we go. We got some Sac State listeners. Do you have any Montana listeners?
Yeah, there's plenty. There's plenty of Montana listeners.
So there's our DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week. Okay, let's jump into some questions. I know we've got a lot of people wanting to chime in, so let's jump into the Super Chats first. Yeah, here's pulling it up. The Blind Swordsman says, Henry, here's $5 for tissues for your Chiefs losing. This should be enough for the lotion kind of tissues. Also, save some for the Swifties. Speaking of the Swifties, Broncos, props to them. Just absolutely trolled the Chiefs right when the game ends. Travis Kelce's still on the field. They start playing Shake It Off, and I think it was perfect because it wasn't just Taylor Swift. It was also like, we're shaking off the losing streak. It's gone. That's behind us.
Yeah, and also, so I was watching afterward, and Travis Kelce's kind of walking off the field, and Alex Singleton was like, hyping the crowd up, jumping around. I could swear that Alex saw Travis walking off about 5 yards away and was waving at him on the way. And I was gonna ask Alex about it, but all the TV cameras were there too, and I was like, I don't need to be asking him this question in front of the news cameras, but I am kind of curious if that's the case.
You should have did it. He would have answered.
He would have. I know. I thought about it. I was like,
answered.
But then what if he just said no? What are you talking about? Then it's I guess they just don't even put that part on. But then if he says yes, he does. He's more than willing to stir the pot a little.
Henry, you're more important than TV cameras. Don't worry about them.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. I am more important.
Alex
than them.
would have given you a great answer.
Even
if he didn't, he would have been like, no, but I definitely should have or something.
Yeah, the Shake It Off was incredible.
Oh, so good. And speaking of trolls, But Y comes in and says, hope old Sexy Rexy is having a good day. Yeah, haven't heard from him, have we?
No.
He had a lot to say.
You think he can do a better job than Vance Joseph over these past 3 games? I don't think so either. I don't
know who could.
How about this name? Blow It All Up. Wonder if they're going to change their name for this. Comes in and says, we are not bad enough as a team for a top 3 pick. I'm loving all the draft options in the trenches in 2024. So we weren't going to talk about draft positioning. Right now, the Broncos have the 8th overall pick. Still get a damn good player there, but hopefully we're not talking about a top 10 pick the way this season is starting to turn around potentially. Next one coming in from Justin. Says Javonte only averaged 3.1 yards per carry. I think it's a really true 3.1. A lot of times yards per carry is skewed because of long runs, but Javonte didn't really have a long run. Yeah, no, he didn't. And I got to say, I was surprised when I looked back and saw the Broncos rush for under 4 yards per carry because it just seemed like they got what they needed to. They weren't ripping off 17-yard runs when they only needed 4, but if they needed 3, they were getting 4. If they needed 2, they were getting 3, and it just pretty much every run just seemed like really efficient in what you wanted.
Yeah, he was playing really well, and I think his average went down with some of the runs later on in the game. And then I also feel like, 3 yards a carry, I mean, it's not astounding, but that's a really good stat. I mean, you run first, second down, all of a sudden you're 3rd and 4, you expect to win more 3rd and 4s than lose them. So you put your team ahead of the sticks, and I think that's what they were trying to do. And a lot of times I feel like they were getting more than they wanted at times. But like you said, if they needed 2, they would get 3.
Yeah, and it's such a big thing is staying ahead of the sticks. That's something that they did yesterday for sure.
Yep.
Jacob says, Sean may not have turned Russ into an elite overall quarterback again, but he may have turned him into the best game manager in the league, which is what this offense needs. And Courtland Sutton is back. Denver Broncos for life.
Yeah, it's a good one. Best game manager in the league is a tough title to place because you could also say who's the best. Let's not talk about Patrick Mahomes.
Jalen Hurts. How about
Jalen Hurts? He can manage games too. He does a lot of especially with the Eagles. There's all those screens and underneath some RPO type stuff. Like, that's game manager stuff, too. Like, I don't know. The game manager title is always weird because it just means a guy who can only game manage, whereas, like, every good quarterback can do that. And Russ hit on some deep throws, too. So
Russell Wilson's stats are very impressive. We're going to dive into those later this week, but top 5 in nearly every statistical category, which is just incredible turnaround. Danny hits us with the super chat, and that's it. Thank you, Danny. We really appreciate it. That's very generous. We really appreciate the support. Andrew chimes in and says, this is my public apology to Vance Joseph. Appreciate the honesty, Andrew, and I think a lot of people owe Vance
You're not the only
apology.
one, man. I think a lot of people are like eating their words.
Oh,
They
yeah.
are
A lot of people just probably not saying his name right now.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't want to say his name because then I'm admitting that I was wrong right now.
Yep. That's what happens in football, though. You say all the things that you want after like week 3, week 4, and it turns out half of them just aren't true by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And it's all credit to him because this defense was historically bad. And now it's one of the best in the NFL, maybe the best in the NFL over these past 3 weeks, going up against the Chiefs twice.
Yeah.
Can't state that enough.
Yep.
Blow
And
it.
Yesterday, Garett Bolles pointed out, like, he was specifically happy for Vance because Vance was the coach when... No, he wasn't. Garett said that Vance was the coach when the streak started, which is not true.
No.
That was still Kubiak. That was the Super Bowl season. But he was happy that he got to be the one who helped end it. Still a good sentiment, even if it was wrong.
Well, and also with Garett, he knows what it's like to be loved by the fans and really not liked by the fans. And we obviously know that Vance has gone through those emotions as well. So so cool for Garett to have his back, and everyone has Vance's back in that locker room.
Yep.
And Todd, we know you're not the biggest fan of some of your former coaches, and Vance is certainly not one of those.
No.
So Vance is very much liked within that locker room.
Absolutely, man. I think the guys that ran to a brick wall for Vance, and I think you're seeing it once again.
Yep. Blow it all up again with the super chat. Thank you. Says, can we please get Todd, Orlando, and PS2 on a players only show?
Are you trying to kick these guys
That's
off?
exactly what it is. Yeah.
Denny says, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jeudy was wearing a red and yellow jacket in the post-game interviews last night. Wishful thinking?
I don't think so. I didn't even put that together, but he was. He was wearing some red stuff. I mean, it's just like a fashion thing. It's not a Chiefs thing.
You see what the coat our guy Pat Surtain was wearing last night after the game? Oh, man, it was nice. Maybe you can pull it up, you hear. It was a well, let's see if you here can pull it up. If not, I'll explain it.
Did
But
you
it
see
was swaggy.
the mask that he was wearing with it?
That was scary. That was too scary.
It was scary.
Did you see it? Man,
Pat?
he went Halloween costume before the
no,
game.
I didn't see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was terrifying.
It was.
What is that? Is it Pat was posting that. Was it Chucky?
Yeah, it was Chucky, but it was. Let's see if I can pull it up. It was.
Why don't you send that to
Oh,
me
it's
here too, so we
gone.
can pull it up?
I can't. I think it was potentially Louis Vuitton Chucky mask,
Oh,
which I didn't even know they made those. Again, I don't know much about them. But yeah, I'll send this over to.
All right, next one coming in from Chance Manning says, we beat the ketchup bottles. Let's freaking go. Let's go.
Wow.
And final super chat coming in from Chop says, I know this is going to hurt Russ defenders, but if we make a run and make the playoffs, is Sean bringing Russ back or save our cat from that contract? We've been all over the place with this in the first 7 weeks of this season, and I don't think it's decided yet. Russ is going to be on this team past the trade deadline. Is going to be the quarterback going into Buffalo. But at least personally, I think it's too early. And it's okay. We don't have to have all of the answers for the future right now. Russ is doing, I think, everything that that Sean has asked of him. And we're just going to see if Sean continues to trust him more and open it up. And then I think that's the key for Russ being back next year.
Yep.
Yeah, if we go on a run, though, I don't see a reason why we would let him go because we'll still have the cap hit. That's going to be drastic. I think we'll keep him at that point, especially going on a run.
Yeah.
And the only tough part is that you, if he were to get hurt, and we'll touch wood, then all of a sudden you have to keep him. And so the sooner you make this decision in that regard is better, just because you can take the risk away and sit him. But I mean, if you're not punting on the season right now, so you're definitely not benching your quarterback.
Yeah, no, absolutely not right now. Do we have any of those graphics you hear? Dang, can't find any.
I just
All right.
sent one, yeah.
Can you look up Pat Surtain? It was post game, so maybe a news station, one of the ones we talked about earlier.
Yes.
We do like TV cameras sometimes.
Yes, the TV cameras.
And let's just hit a couple of questions on the website. Tastes Good says, damn, Derek Wolfe on the post game. Hope he makes it regular in the rotation. Love his takes, and the talk with Todd feels like insider knowledge. P.S. Tuesdays, Wolf Wednesdays, Baldy whenever he's not in the ocean. LOL. Love it. Yeah, and I've absolutely loved what we've done to our coverage. And Todd, you're a huge part to that. Love your insight this year.
Yeah, it's been fun, man. I'm going to bring a lot more guys on throughout the year. Broncos keep winning. Guys want to come on. Broncos are losing. It's like,
It's so true.
So I need your help, Broncos. Come on, man.
Let's go. Moogie says, what a win, boys. This team's resilience is something else. Heading into the bye, I thought some flowers were due to this team. Number 1's for the one and only DNVR. 2 goes out to VJ, Sean, Payton, and that staff. 3 for this defense and the whole team. In fact, number 4 we're still waiting for, so bring on the Bills. I thought I'd have fun with it. Lost in all of this is the chaos since last year. I must commend this team for consistently putting a steel face, facing the tough media, and sticking through it together. It's cold out there, but damn, 2 wins in 8 days feels sunny. Thanks to DNVR. Thank you, Moogie. Thank you to everyone who's tuning in with us. And we're going to end with just a horrifying photo. Incredible costume. Oh, and that's the coat, too. He's wearing the coat right there.
What is that, a fur?
It is very fur.
Chinchilla? It's a mink? What's up, brother?
Like, that is such a good mask. It's horrifying.
Oh, yeah. And so he put it on his Instagram story.
Yep.
And so the one before that was him, like, the full outfit with the mask, but it is expired, so I can't share that one, which is a shame. But yeah, it's a great mask. I didn't know that you could get, like, a Louis Vuitton Chucky mask.
You can Louis Vuitton anything, baby.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just wait for Todd's Louis costume tomorrow.
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton Don. Little Dapper Dan.
That's going to do it for us today. Please hit us with a thumbs up on the way out. Really helps us. And man, we've got a season. We've got a heartbeat. So much to talk about. And tomorrow, we're going to have a very special day. We're going to be going live at noon. I'm going to be rolling with you for a little bit. So hang tight on YouTube, podcast, trade deadline. We're going to see if they move Jerry, see if they move Quarter, see if they're rolling with this group because they think they can make a run here. So stay tuned. Tomorrow, we're going to be covering it all on the DNVR Broncos show. Thank you all so much for rolling with us. Have a fantastic Victory Monday.
We all silly like the mayor.